everybody, and welcome back to Rise of the Podcast. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Kara.
And I'm Keith.
And I'm the Pokemon Master.
Oh. Should we talk about that in just a second?
I mean, that's...
It was down the road. We'll talk about it down the road. So look at what I have right here. All right, so we have Keith in the house. And so, Keith, these are 2 books, not just one,
Yes.
but 2.
What are you doing, you author?
Yeah,
And
right?
Yeah, right.
One of those gets to go to the Manthe household, and one
Yes.
of those gets to go to the Brown
Ooh.
household.
So-
you guys fight amongst yourselves.
I had made an argument right off the bat. I was able to download this one. That is the Red Betty and the Murder Farm, available on Amazon on the Kindle. Is it still free?
It's still free on the Kindle. I'm going to do another free promotion for another day. Amazon lets you do that.
That's awesome. And then this one here, look at that nice graphic Chris has.
Hey.
It's covering up me.
That was intentional. Care of Keith.
That was intentional.
And then the other one is just the horror anthology handbook. Okay, and so this is like nonfiction.
That's nonfiction. That's about horror anthology movies, and it's specifically written for filmmakers. So people who like horror or like to make horror movies.
These are so cool.
I'm actually really excited to read Red Betty and the Murder Farm.
Kara loves a good
Mystery.
Kara's
Yeah.
addicted to murder mystery. Right?
Yeah. This girl, this woman, does murder mystery makeup Mondays. She does her makeup and she tells true crime stories.
Oh, that's really cool. Does
She's
the makeup in some way
amazing.
correlate to the story?
No, but that's what got me into true crime.
Oh, sure. Cool.
Because I like makeup. And I really true crime was interesting. You know, I watched America's Most Wanted and stuff back when I was younger, right? But then I was like, oh, well, this could be cool, listening to stories while she does her makeup. And now I'm like, true crime. It's interesting. I can't say cool because that's creepy and weird. It's interesting.
Well, this is not true crime. This
That's
is
okay.
completely from my brain.
Well, when I heard the title of this, it made me think of a true crime back in the day. There was a woman who lured men to her farm and she murdered them back in I think it was
man.
the 20s, 10s, maybe the late 1800s. So that's why I thought it when I saw this. So I'm super excited to read this.
So, Keith, compared to the first time you've come here, Kara's interest in that genre has increased tenfold, which is so funny.
That's good for me.
Yeah, horror is alive and well, I guess. But, no, it's been really funny because she'll watch YouTube videos about it, and then when I'm not home, we have Netflix stuff we'll watch together, right? Or
Right.
stream stuff
Oh, man,
we'll watch together.
yeah.
So when we're not together, she's watching Unsolved Mysteries and all these other true crime
See
shows.
no evil.
See no
Watch
evil.
Forensic Files is the best.
What is?
Forensic Files.
Yeah.
That's the one where they introduce a new forensic technique every episode, right?
Yep.
Man, they have enough techniques to introduce a new one in every
They've been
episode.
15 seasons of this.
That is crazy.
That is absolutely crazy. So, Gravedigger, okay, so talk about, let's jump, so last time, a year ago, we talked about Gravedigger Dave's.
Yeah.
And I have seen it now. Kara's seen it. We've all I own it on Amazon.
Oh, well, thank you.
And then, because I know it's streaming on Prime now.
Yeah, it's still on Amazon Prime, which is pretty cool.
That is cool. And then a second one's coming out, and the trailer for that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about that one,
It is
too.
fantastic. So I was sitting there, and so I'm at work. Oh, Chris has the
Look at Chris, just all prepared for tonight.
Made me prepared.
Oh,
I mean,
Way
nice.
to go.
All I did is send you 3 still images. If you guys watching this could see the console that Brownie is working behind, it's like a spaceship.
It kind of is.
Full-on TV studio in here.
So I was sitting there at work, and I may have already told this story, but I was sitting there at work, and I was like, oh, Keith shared his new trailer. And so I was watching it, and I had it sitting there, and then I'm doing my thing, and I look over, and I'm like, oh, that's good. And then I'm sitting here watching it, and I completely quit what I was doing. I just watched the whole thing. And it's just, I know how much hard work we put into what we do here.
Yeah.
So you don't know how much people actually appreciate your stuff, because you don't get to see their reactions, you know?
It would be nice to be able to do more stuff in theaters for the past, year as we, record this. We're in April, or wait, what month are we in? May? May of 2021. So we haven't really done anything in theaters for over a year. So it's going to be really good to get back to that and experience something with other humans. Whether it's something I make or something that I just go to see. Movies are made to watch, socially and communally. It's a communal experience. So it's been really, it's something I've really missed.
It's a little tangent about that. So my family, right? We all went. A big group of us went to see The Rise of Skywalker, which came out right before things started to get bad. But we were just talking about the other day, my coworker David, he said, that's the first time I met your dad was when we went to the movie. So just a little personal, like you got to see my dad and then he was looking and he's like, okay, Jeremy, you're this tall. Your mom is this tall. What happened? So anyways, but he got to meet him and all of his mannerisms and everything. And it was just kind of fun because it was a movie that was a catalyst for that experience. And if without that environment, when would those two meet each other, So it is kind of fun. I really, really, really miss going to the movies.
Yeah, we've all been just kind of watching stuff at home in our own little bubble. And as like somebody who makes things, you guys make things, you only know how people are responding to it if they comment, right? And that leap from like getting a viewer to getting a commenter, it's kind of like, it's a lot, right? You really have to engage that person.
Yep.
But if you're just in the movie theater and you can just see people reacting, they don't have to say anything. You're like, okay, that moment works. This moment doesn't work. You just kind of like feel it, So it'll be good to get back to that.
Well, even that, when not even being part of the person who made the movie, there's just jokes that sometimes I'll laugh at things, and I'm the only person in the theater who laughed. And then, other plenty of times people are cracking up and I'll get a little chuckle or something or a little emotion come out of me. But yeah, there'll be times where I'm just like, ha, ha, ha. It just echoes over. It was really funny. I don't know if it was intentional or not, or maybe I just thought it was funny. But yeah, I really miss being able to go to the movies.
Well, when we did do the screening for Gravedigger Dave's Halfway House, you guys had a trailer for Rise of the Podcast.
Right.
And seeing it on the big screen, YouTube is wonderful, but YouTube doesn't quite do justice to the quality stuff you guys are recording as we speak. Seeing it on the big screen was like crazy. Mm-hmm. It looked so good.
It looked super cool. And I miss you mentioned YouTube is such a one-way street. Even when people comment, it's just you don't get the engagement with the back and forth. And that's what's fun about going live is that we get this opportunity to have this back and forth, because without it, it's just not there and it's not nearly as fun. I feel like I'm just barking at a bunch of people. And so going to the movie theater, you get to read the room and get that experience. And even just Chris is like, we want well lit and well whatever, and you don't. A phone will stream over an internet connection, of whatever cell tower, and it'll drop it down to 360p, and it'll be all movie theater is the movie theater. It's like it's just coming off of the media directly, and it's getting broadcast on a big screen, and it just makes it so much fun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Super cool. So Gravedigger Dave's 2.
Yes.
Electric Boogaloo.
What's the progress on it, or what do you want to pitch about that?
Sure, yeah. So this movie, the first movie was an anthology film of all short films I had made. This one has short films coming from all around the world. So I've already let the filmmakers know who have been accepted into the movie, and they're from China and Korea and England and Germany. They're from all over the place. Even within the United States, they're from the Midwest and California. So it's a very kind of wide group of filmmakers, very wide-reaching. And they're all creepy stories about the undead and the paranormal and what's on the other side. Mm-hmm. And they're all thematically, I think, going to fit really well with the Gravedigger Dave kind of universe. So I'm directing some stuff. There's a whole bunch of other people who have directed some stuff and contributed to it. And we're going to do a screening this summer at Cinema. And then DVDs are going to be sold at cost. So if whatever platform we decide to sell them on, if it costs $3 to make a DVD, they'll be sold for $3. So it's totally not for profit.
That's cool.
And it'll also be streaming on probably Vimeo. I'm kind of unsure if I should go YouTube or Vimeo for the streaming element, but the movie's going to stream for free as well.
Cool.
So yeah.
Vimeo doesn't mess with your quality as much as YouTube just hits the compression buttons to a maximum. So if you're looking for a better viewer experience, Vimeo, but if you're looking to get to more viewers, YouTube. So that's kind of the toss up.
And the people who contributed to the film, I get to see what platforms they're using, and they're all on Vimeo as well. So Vimeo is kind of the home for filmmakers. Yeah. And I also feel like Vimeo is a little more Roku friendly and Amazon Fire friendly than YouTube is. So it's probably going to be Vimeo.
That's cool.
Nice.
Vimeo's kind of like the MySpace for movie people.
Well, don't compare it to MySpace.
Well, no, so MySpace was for bands, right?
Right.
And then then Vimeo's for filmmakers, and OnlyFans is for Jeremy.
Yeah. So we're going to be able to stream it. I think so Gravedigger Dave, everything was shot in the Northland. And so I got to meet Adam was in that film, right?
Adam Norrie,
Adam was in that film. And so I've got to know him through Facebook. But anyways, it was cool because we got to see all the local area. But I'm equally excited to see things that aren't in my wheelhouse normally. So that's going to be crazy.
It's, I'm really trying to test the versatility of the Gravedigger Dave concept. Like how many different types of stories from different types of places can this character kind of like support? So I'm really super confident about the second movie. And I got so far into the Gravedigger Dave character that I decided to brand the novel, Red Betty and the Murder Farm, as a Gravedigger Dave Presents.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
So, I think this character, as played by Matt Rasmussen, the lovely and talented Matt Rasmussen.
He's been here.
Yep, he's been here many times.
Friend of the show.
Almost as many times as I have, I hear. But yeah, I think this character can kind of be the backbone of a lot of different types of stories. In the same way that like the Crypt Keeper is like the face of Tales from the Crypt.
Right.
So.
Right. So we got Gravedigger Dave's here. I am super excited to read this.
Yeah, I was gonna say we should talk about this because
I want to get to the books. But so about Matt really quick. You've got Matt in the trailer, and then you've got the man with the drill.
Yep.
Is an amazing counter character to Gravedigger Dave, and I can't believe how possessive I was over Gravedigger Dave when I was watching like somebody challenge him.
Right.
Like, what? You step down. Step down right now. This is Matt and this is Gravedigger Dave, and he's the one like you get I don't know, you get that nostalgic like whatever. I wish you could have seen me watch the trailer because it was really that cool.
That's getting back to movie theaters, getting to watch stuff with people. But so that guy, in the script, I call him Dr. Drills a lot. He's not actually named in the movie, but I had to like find a way to refer to him when I was writing. And Dr. Drills a lot is played by Sean Zarn, the lovely and talented, also from Duluth.
Very talented. The acting is just off the charts. It's so good.
I actually I'd seen Sean acting in something that Matt had made that was a YouTube video, and then they gave me a DVD of a movie called Spooked in Bridgewater that they had made, I think, when they were in college. And so Matt is in it, Sean is in it, and like every time I saw Sean in something, even though I think I had only met him once at the time, I'm like, man, this guy, like, I don't know, there's just something about him. Like, he's just like fun to watch.
Yeah.
And he's just a good actor. And I don't think he has any experience, but I think he's just real. I mean, by experience, I mean like formal training or anything like that. I think he's just kind of running on instinct. But there's just something kind of like captivating about him. And I saw that in everything that Matt showed me. So I'm like, hey, you want to be in this movie? And he immediately just said yes. And,
that's awesome.
And he's really great in it.
That's so cool. Well, Matt's such a fun character, and we had Chance on. He did a YouTube series, The Lifties.
Yep.
And so in preparation, I had this first time I heard about him when Chris said that he was going to be on as a guest. So I went and watched all of, 2 episodes at a time, 3 now, of The Lifties. I went and watched them, and of course, Kara's upstairs with, Chip, and I'm downstairs watching it, and I, like, all of a sudden, Matt's on the TV. And he's so iconic. Carrie yells downstairs, "Is that Matt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's Matt on the TV."
You just know that voice, right?
You do.
And then I had seen, I was selling some stuff on Facebook Marketplace, and I had 2 people message me about it, and I'm looking at both their profiles, and on one of the guys, he had a cover photo, and the cover photo had Adam and Matt in it.
Oh, really?
And I was like, he didn't know him because he was like just like a fan taking pictures.
It was the Ghostbusters.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
But I'm like, what is going on? Matt's just popping up all over the place.
He's everywhere. He really is.
I don't understand how he can get anything done because he does so much.
It's
right. I mean, he's the king of Halloween. He's like the king of an entire season.
Yeah.
Right.
Of the year, which is kind of crazy too.
So that was cool. Anyways, the whole point is,
hello, Gabe. Welcome.
It's fun that he's in your movie. Hi, Gabe. Because he's such a good and fun character.
And I just want to hop back to Chance for a second.
Yeah.
So Chance is also an author. On top of having this web series, he's working on a book.
Talk about that.
I don't even think he's ever really talked about this, but I'll talk about it for him.
There you go.
Because he let me read like a kind of an early draft, and I told him what I thought, and it's really good. And it's called In the Web of the Spider Queen. And it's creepy as hell. So look for that. I don't know when he's going to put it out, but someday he will, and it's awesome.
Well, I had some common ground with him right off the bat because of what he does, and he's gone right now, doing that thing. But I'm like, man, I've done that before, and I hate leaving because you have to like drop everything all your projects you're working on and go work, somewhere else in the world for a while, and it's really tough. But yeah, it was really fun getting to know him. Throughout the course of just the podcast and then just now on Facebook. I get to know people through Facebook. I got to know Adam because Adam was messaging me when Matt was on last, or when Matt was on his phone call, or when he was on.
Yeah, I think it was his phone call. Yep.
And it just made Adam's day, but their whole relationship cracks me up too. But so just a funny story for everyone, just as a because we do tangents here. So we've had I've told a story about the time we made a taser out of a disposable camera, and I tased Dave's little brother, and then we had Dan on.
Yep.
And we talked about the Northern bus and him remodeling a bus. And so what happens is when I talk about stuff on the podcast, everyone wants to like let me know when they see stuff. So when I talked about the taser story, I got like 5 pictures texted to me of the Jake's hand where I tasered him and the scars. 5 different people sent me a taser. So since Dan's been on, I've had a bunch of people been messaging me remodeled buses. And they're like, oh, man, Dan, you should show this to Dan. I'm like, you should send it to Dan. Chris and I were talking, and it's like Star Wars is huge. But like people who make memes and like things, it's not that hard to be exposed to like
Star Wars,
right? Star Wars memes or whatever. And so what cracks me up is I would imagine the bus remodeling crew or community isn't probably that big. I would imagine Dan's probably seen a lot of these things.
Probably.
Yeah, and I've tagged him in stuff before, and he's just like, yeah, I've been tagged in this. I'm like, oh yeah, you have been tagged in this.
So multiple times.
Yeah.
So I should have told Dan that. I just never thought that would happen after the fact. But yeah, and then like how Facebook listens to you or whatever too. I on their own bus remodeling things will pop up now, and there was one I saw like it was like, trick out your Volkswagen van book. And I'm like, the projects are beautiful, but it's a ton of work.
Yeah.
And you can see it in Dan's videos, and it's just really fun. But that just made me laugh because I would imagine like anything horror related, people are probably, just...
Yeah, I guess so.
Blast you with it, maybe.
I mean, certainly Batman related.
Yeah.
Have you seen Halloween?
You've made it when somebody sends you your own work, right?
Well, yeah.
Like, hey, Keith, have you seen this awesome book?
This is going back a ways, but on that topic. So when Heath Ledger passed away in 2000, I had people like texting me like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, well,
I was more not okay than anyone else. I was like, Heath Ledger, I loved you.
Oh, no. What had your favorite Heath Ledger movie been before The Dark Knight?
Knight's Tale.
Oh, I've actually never seen a Knight's Tale.
It's terrible.
Okay,
I didn't realize it was one of those
Jeremy
movies.
has no right to gasp because it took me like 3 years of marriage to get him to actually watch
He's
it.
the guy who plays in Still Standing. He's the British guy, or
I talking about the bad guy?
the big fat guy.
No. I know.
He also played in The Snowman. He's the drummer in The Snowman. These random movies. I'll bring his name.
You'll know who it is, Chris. You've mentioned it before.
When I say it. And then you've got, we watched Man in the High Castle.
Oh, yeah.
So the main German bad guy, he's not even a bad guy. He ends up being a good, to kill his son Thomas.
That guy, he's one of the he's a really challenging character. You don't know what to make of him.
So he's in A Knight's Tale.
Nice.
You've got
Mark Addy.
Mark Addy is in A Knight's Tale. You can show
Alan Tudyk.
I don't know
Paul
his
Bettany.
names. Oh, Paul Bettany. Yeah, I know him.
So Alan Tudyk.
Alec Tudyk. He played Steve the Pirate in Dodgeball.
Wasn't he in Firefly too?
Yes, he was in Firefly and Serenity.
He's the voice of K2SO.
And he's the voice of K2SO.
Bettany.
Vision.
Yep, and the Vision. All
Rufus
those.
Sewell is the bad guy. He's in A Knight's Tale.
Everybody named Rufus is an evil person.
And then of course you have Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
the movie's fantastic.
I gotta watch it.
It's
overhyped. You're not gonna enjoy it.
No, it's not.
It's such a good movie.
I never thought I would have loved it.
I've seen it multiple times. It's like people love it so much that it makes me not possible to like it.
It's so good.
It may not be for you, but it is good. It is.
It's like the people like so.
It's been made out to be too good.
On the opposite side of that sort of same coin, I suggest for people to watch Princess Bride because I love the Princess Bride. Right?
I love Princess Bride.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that suffers from the exact same
no, that's the exact same thing. It's like, so people that are introduced to that, because I watched it as a kid, right? And I grew up with it or whatever. That's the same thing that people that absolutely love A Knight's Tale watched it younger and grew up with it.
Right.
So it's like, I don't like the movie. Right, because I don't have the same attachment to it that they do, and they're pushing it at me so hard. That my immediate thing is like, stop.
The casting in it is just so good, though.
Yeah.
I'll check it out. But that happened to me with the Goonies, because I had never seen the Goonies as a kid.
I still haven't seen it.
I've not seen it either.
It's good. It's certainly a good movie. But like when you watch it in college with people who grew up with it, you're kind of like, yeah, it's good, guys. Yeah,
you feel like the odd person or whatever.
So it's a fine movie, but it's nowhere near as good as people make it out to be.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, I do think it's good, and I didn't watch it until I was older, but I do think it's good.
You are a child, though.
I think The Princess Bride is better. Like, to me, that is just a classic.
Yeah,
and that has a following, but.
Knight's Tale, I think is. I honestly think they're pretty comparable movies in terms of like.
Well, is Knight's Tale a comedy? I thought it was like a straight up adventure movie.
It's like an adventure comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fun. I don't know.
The music is fantastic.
Both of them are set in like a fantasy setting and like whatever. Like so, the Knight's Tale was made in like 2000 or whatever in the late 90s or something, whereas like Princess Bride was in the 80s.
Yeah,
right.
But Paul Bettany is who is the
2001 was A Knight's Tale.
Who's the announcer? Who plays the
Chaucer? Paul Bettany.
That is Paul Bettany.
Brad is lighting me up about this Knight's Tale thing.
Wait, Brad, you like Knight's Tale? Yes.
Hey, Cam. Welcome to chat.
Hi, Cam.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie. I'm not saying that people shouldn't enjoy it.
It's just overhyped.
It's overhyped to me, and I didn't personally enjoy it to the
the extent.
Yeah, it's like people are selling it to me like it's freaking Gone with the Wind.
I'd rather watch A Knight's Tale than Gone with the Wind.
I was gonna say. I've never seen Gone with the Wind.
It's long.
So what was like fun for me, I guess, is because what was fun to see all these. Like I said, the casting is what really did it for me. Seeing Paul Bettany as this, is he a drunk or is he a gambler?
Chaucer? He's a gambler and a drunk.
Yeah,
he loses his clothes all the time gambling.
So he hypes the crowd up for the main character who is Heath Ledger, and then you've got Mark Addy, who I absolutely love. He played in a sitcom called Still Standing, which I love. And then
what does he play in that?
He's the main character in Still Standing. It's a sitcom, and
isn't Still Standing the Tim Allen sitcom?
Nope, that's Last Man Standing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. Last Man Standing, and then Still Standing is the older one.
I have no idea what Still Standing is.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Yeah, I've never heard of it either.
A lot of people haven't seen it. Really, really.
Oh, I forgot Mark Addy's in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, he is. He's the king in season 1.
Oh my god, I've never watched Game of Thrones.
That's okay.
I'm failing on so many.
I haven't seen Game of Thrones
now.
either.
Robert Baratheon.
So the problem with Game of Thrones is,
it sounds like there's a lot of problems with Game
season
of Thrones.
8 run to it.
Yeah, season 8.
But anyways, it's a fun movie. I forgot. I completely derailed. Oh, Heath Ledger. People will call you up when he passed away. You ask
we don't need to backtrack.
We went from that to me getting lambasted for not liking a movie.
We're down so many tangents that we can't. There's no backtracking.
Do here.
So what's your favorite Heath Ledger movie?
I mean, The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight's excellent.
I watched that within the last couple of weeks. It's so freaking good. Well, I mean, I've seen it before, obviously.
Yeah.
But Netflix is like, last time to watch this is April 30th. So I binged the whole trilogy real quick.
Nice.
My best friend and I, so we were huge Christian Bale fans as well.
Yeah, my wife too.
And yes, your wife's got good taste. But my best friend and I would always get together and we would watch the Batman. I think it was just the 2
at the time.
And we'd pound down a bunch of Mountain Dew and we'd eat a bunch of Reese's peanut butter cups and we'd make cookie dough and we'd eat a bunch of cookie dough and we would just sit and we would drool over Heath Ledger as Batman. Or not Heath Ledger, Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
And then you do have Heath Ledger, but I mean.
He's not looking so good in that movie.
Exactly. There's no drool in there. It's just Christian Bale's like, yeah. So anyway, yep.
That's yeah.
Sorry.
Is he married? Hopefully. No, I'm just kidding.
Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, I think he is.
So Brownie, recently you tagged me in that like which trilogy do you prefer Facebook thing, and it was like this face for this one and this face for that one. So I had to select Dark Knight, even though there were some really great trilogies in there. But can I assume that you guys all chose Star Wars?
I picked Back to the Future.
No, you picked Back to the Future over Star Wars.
Back to the Future is my jam.
I mean, that is like a perfect trilogy.
Yeah, I would argue that there's very few perfect just individual movies made, and Back to the Future is a perfect movie.
Yeah, and Back to the Future too. I mean, I think the third one suffers from a lot of the things that a lot of third movies and trilogies suffer from.
Yeah, like they have to try and wrap something up that's so big and sprawling and
right.
Yeah,
and then the movie becomes more about that than just telling an interesting story.
Yep.
Mine was the even split of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings.
See, Lord of the Rings was a close second for me too. I don't think Lord of the Rings suffers from the third movie problem. I think it's a great third movie.
You know, I mean, you can't really go wrong.
And not one. It just is. Yeah, it's got years of it. Yeah. So, you know that movie, the casting again. You got Sean Bean. You've got
Viggo Mortensen.
One of them.
You've got Liv Tyler.
I know.
You've got.
Yep.
Are you talking about Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
Sean Bean is a death magnet.
Elijah Wood.
I love. Okay, so as a kid, I watched, or not even as a kid, but just like as a young adult person getting into films. Like I watched every movie that I watched. Sean Bean was a bad guy. So you got GoldenEye. Him as Trevlin. In GoldenEye?
The GoldenEye reveal was particularly heartbreaking because as a kid, when I was watching GoldenEye, I didn't see it coming. I'm like, no!
Yeah.
I forget what his name is, but yeah.
Yeah, and then in the Island, he's the guy who runs like the cloning facility.
Oh yeah,
National Treasure.
Island is an underrated movie.
That's Michael Bay's best movie, I think.
I didn't even know that was Michael Bay. I didn't know it is.
It is.
He did The Rock, didn't he?
Oh, that's true.
I think The Rock is better.
Dude,
he's done some good movies.
It's not mine. I love that movie.
He gets a bad rap, but he started off with some really good ones.
Bad Boys.
Anyway, Bad Boys is good. I've never seen Bad Boys 2.
Sean Bean dies in everything.
Yeah, he does.
Except for
National Treasure.
Are you talking
die.
about Sean Bean movies?
No, I'm talking about. I switched to Michael Bay.
Got it. Michael Bay. Got it.
Wait. So your trilogy though?
Oh, it was just so I used to. Sean Bean was always the bad guy, but he's played in enough good stuff. He's Ned Stark in Game of Thrones in season 1.
Dies.
But
spoiler.
Regardless of his death. Then he's in Lord of the Rings, and his character, has a thing. But yeah.
Spoiler. Back.
Anyways, he's absolutely awesome. So now I don't have to hate him for how he was typecasted. I just enjoy him as an actor, good or bad, because of how I just love him.
He's a very good actor.
Yeah,
he's great.
For what it's
I don't care if he is the bad guy. I still like him.
I know, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like lately. Since Game of Thrones, has he been in anything that you guys
I don't know
can think
since
of?
Game of Thrones.
I don't want to break my internet. So
I was really sad.
Look.
I was really sad, like Sean Connery passing away.
Yeah.
Oh, that was devastating.
Yeah,
and then I didn't realize it. He did League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and was that his last movie?
No.
I think it actually
that was 2006. There's no way that was his last movie.
I don't know. I kind of remember hearing that also.
Yeah, it shocking.
I think that's an underrated. A lot of people hated that movie. I liked that movie. He played Alan Quarterman.
It might shock you, Kara, when you're done. Look up Sean Connery's movie.
What didn't you like about it? Do you like the source material better than the conglomeration that it became?
Well, okay. So
I think that's the common problem that people have with it.
I didn't read the comic books until after I'd already seen the movie. I just disliked the movie on its own merits.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair. That hit me right. It came up right after high school for me. It had Sean Connery in it. It was like this fun, random, whirlwind action thing or whatever. It was completely nonsensical. Yeah. But I was on board. It kind of hit me like the Van Helsing film that came out around the same time. Right. Where it's they took something that was really established and basically just took the name and did whatever they wanted with it.
There are a lot of parallels now that you mention it between Van Helsing and the League of Extraordinary
I feel
Gentlemen.
stylistically it was pretty similar too. Yeah. So I was that was sort of my mindset in that time frame.
What did you say his last
kind of
movie
movies
was?
I wanted to watch.
I thought it was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
You're right. He did voice work after that.
I think that counts.
It depends on how big the role is. If he's like Owen Wilson in Cars, that's But if he's
The Untouchables, that's a classic.
That is a good movie.
There was a thing called Sir Billy, where he played Sir Billy, the voice
that sounds
actor.
like a starring role to me.
Can I see the image for that? Because so I checked that out. I think I saw it on Netflix or something, and I was like, man, this looks really terrible. And so I watched some of it, and it was really terrible. Yeah, and my wife and I were like, how did they get Sean Connery to be in this? Yeah. We didn't get very far into it. Yeah, it was bad.
So otherwise, he did From Russia with Love, the video game voiceover in 2005.
Whatever.
But the last time he appeared himself, Sean Connery in a film was The League of Extraordinary
So what
Gentlemen.
year did that come out? I thought it was
2003.
Oh, 3. Okay.
So that's what shocked me was because it's like he was in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but that was already way back in the 90s, you know. And so it's like you see him, and I can't believe that was the last movie he did. But I mean,
he was in Time Bandits, right?
I don't remember.
What year would that have been?
Either don't watch Time Bandits. It's whack. I say that there's a certain segment of the population I can see that would like it. I'm pretty sure he was in there. And I was
What year would that have been?
Oh, like the 80s, like early 80s.
Yeah.
It's a Terry Gilliam movie.
Oh, okay. You know, I was trying to place it. I've never seen it, but I've been told to watch it. I've heard.
It's one of those things where like if you're high or something.
Oh yeah, there he is.
I mean,
is he in it?
Yeah, he's King Agamemnon.
Agamemnon.
I do really like Terry Gilliam movies.
So you would probably
generally
like it. Like it's out there.
Yeah, I mean, even his, because he has some very well reviewed movies that I, of course, enjoy, and I even like his poorly reviewed movies just because they're so weird, you know.
Yeah.
And they have that weird, like everything is just like tilted and fisheye, and everybody looks all crazy.
Yeah, I went to college with a couple of people who I would classify as like people that like they're the weird people stuff or the weird stuff people.
Yeah,
and it's like I know for a fact that this would be something they would groove on. It's just like. I feel like those type of people always end up suggesting like stuff to me, and it's like this is just too wacky. I just want something that makes sense, please.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever seen Brazil?
No.
That's one of his earlier ones. I've still never seen Brazil.
I've heard about Brazil.
Apparently it's really good.
So
So
are we digging too deep for you guys?
No,
Sorry.
No, like where even are we in the
it
tangent?
seemed like there was a bunch of stuff, but so no, the only thing I
Oh,
heard
this
about.
is people on Twitch saying hi to each other.
Oh, funny. Okay. But no, so Sean, what had shocked me about that, why I was pretty sure that was his last movie, was because he was offered Lord of the Rings.
Oh, he
And
was.
turned it down.
Sean Connery was offered the role of Gandalf.
But
Oh my God.
regretted
Yeah.
it. So his last big like effort, he's like, all right, I'm gonna do League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and that movie flopped.
Yeah.
So that made him so angry he just noped right out of acting.
Man, I can't even imagine Sean Connery playing Gandalf.
Yeah, right?
You
Cute.
shall not pass.
Right, actually.
He's so like, I don't know, he's just so like memeable, you know? And like Ian McKellen is like, he didn't really seem like Ian McKellen. He seemed like the character. And like,
Right. Oh my gosh.
Can
He
Sean
slayed
Connery-
it with Gandalf.
yeah, he did. So I'm happy with the way things went.
The interesting thing about Sean Connery, he occupies like two spaces in my mind, but there's a huge gap of time in between. So he's James Bond, which is like the late 60s to early 70s. And then he was in that one Indiana Jones movie in like 89 or whatever. And then League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in 2003. So there's like these two massive gaps in time where he doesn't occupy any space. And like, I know he was in Highlander or whatever.
Entrapment.
There was
really
quite a Hunt for Red October.
Yeah, that's
I never
really
saw that,
good.
but I know that he was in it. Oh, so Untouchables again. So like, I know he's been in stuff, and I've seen the Untouchables, and it's really good. But like, in my mind, he really only occupies these three spots, and they're like literally like 20 years apart.
Right.
Yeah,
Every time.
That's true. Like, what did he really do between James Bond and Indiana Jones?
There is quite a bit of stuff, actually.
Probably a lot.
I think Untouchables was early 90s. So that was right after Indiana Jones.
Chris has a game where you guess the over-under for how many movies somebody's been in and have
Versus Sean Connery.
and it's versus specifically Sean Connery because he's in more than what you'd think.
Really?
Okay,
So,
really
like-
quick. How many years do you think is between the Untouchables and Indiana Jones?
30.
3.
No, probably not a lot.
It's just 2 years.
Yeah, like, yeah, because like,
What did you say, 3?
That's a 3. Like, I think Indiana Jones was like 89 or 90.
And then he was in The
And then
Presidio
Never saw that.
and Memories of Me.
Yeah.
But
Brad says Connery has a hard time pulling off humility. I think that's why he's such a good James
Yeah.
Bond. Like
Yeah, that's
he
true.
was just like, I am better than everyone around me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't think he would have put like the heart into Gandalf. You know, he would have just been like showing off.
Yeah,
So
he would.
I really agree with that.
If you like swag Gandalf, that would have been.
swag.
Walking around with like a gentleman's cane, not like a big old staff, you know?
Yeah.
do you know how we got here? Does anybody? I know. Does anybody know how we
Heath
got?
Ledger.
Well, Keith brought up trilogies.
Yeah,
That's
On
right.
that voting thing, like way back there. And
I think the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was supposed to be a trilogy.
yeah, maybe
God,
That
never
sounds right.
it wouldn't
That
have
sounds right.
flopped. But no, we were talking about so like Back to the Future. I had only watched them a couple times as a kid, and then when we went back and rewatched them recently, I used to love 1 and 3, but then now I love 1 and 2 are really fantastic, and then 3 starts to it's just that'd be the weakest one if you had to remove one from the trilogy. But it's really a solid overall trilogy. But it was just they're good.
Yeah.
Two is really good. I just hated the future part of it, but it's not as future-y as I remember it being when I went back and watched it.
They're not in the future as much as they like. I guess it might be about. If you count alternate 1985 as part of the future thing, it's like half of the movie.
Right.
But if you count the actual future part, they're really only there for like a half hour.
Yeah, it's not very,
That was actually, the 2 was actually my favorite growing up.
Really?
Yeah, alternate 1985 really kind of captivated me. I like alternate reality stories. Even as a kid I did. So yeah, I was really into 2 as a kid.
I liked 3. Cowboys.
Well, it was just, it was fun, right? And but, I guess... Like
so, this is where it falls apart for me when it goes to 3. So, like, I really do love the movie still.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
So there's something powerful about certain decades. Like the 1950s has a distinct stamp that you can say that is 1955. 1980s has a distinct stamp you can put on. It's like this is the mid 80s, right?
Yep.
So you have these 2 powerful tent poles that you're like sort of building this around and you're going back and forth between and seeing how much has changed over 30 years or whatever, right? And a decent amount of people are alive to experience both of those events, right? As soon as you add in 1885, you go back 100 years from the beginning part of it, you sort of lose that actual connection to like, there's not any people that experienced 1885 and 1985, really.
Yeah.
It's like you find one person who's like 115 years old in 1986 or something that like would have a memory of what the 1880s and the 1980s would be to make that comparison. And that's where sort of like it felt like they just decided to pick something that was like convenient. Okay, it ends in 85. It's a distinct era, but it's not something that has like I feel like you can go from like 1870 to about 1905 in the West, and it's all gonna feel the same. There's nothing that's like distinctly this is the 1880s.
And I think for that reason, like the third movie in my mind doesn't really fit with the other 2. It's just kind of like the outlier, and it's a satisfying end to the story and everything like that. But like, it doesn't feel as interconnected as the first 2. Like the first 2 in my mind, because I watched them when they were both already out, feel just like inseparable. Like they feel like 2 parts of the same story. Yep. And the third one is like, let's try something different. So it just doesn't quite work as well for me.
Yeah.
I feel like if they would have done something like the 20s, like 1925 or something,
that'd have been cool.
It would have felt a little more because there's a little bit more association. Like the 20s to me have a distinct feel to them. It's like you get like the mobsters going on and like we're just coming into like the Great Depression and Prohibition is happening. Like there's all this stuff that you can touch on. Like they were like, oh, we can't find any gas, and then we also can't find any alcohol to power this thing or whatever. Because it's Prohibition and they have to try and like make a speakeasy or something to whatever.
That would have been cool.
I don't know, just like nitpicking classics. But
my next thought, we've got plenty of time. It's just made me kind of like laugh a little bit here. So we're closest to the 80s and we're somewhat close to the 50s. So if we put ourselves back, right, the further you go back in time in like my mind, we'll go back to like the 1900s and then it goes back by like centuries at a time. Then it goes back by like 500 years at a time. You go back to like the Dark Ages. Yeah. So if you grew up in like 1550, do you think the 50, you'd be like, oh man, your parents would be like, oh, the 1520s were so much better.
Not much changed, right?
I don't know. What is it when they look back? Did it feel like the thousands were, like decades or centuries apart? It's like, man, I really missed the candlelight age or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like not much was changing decade to decade back then.
Well, every generation thinks their generation is better than the last or the next one.
Yeah, I think that is a modern viewpoint. I don't think people had the luxury of retrospection. Yeah.
Maybe
like
not.
in the 1550s, you're like, I got to get these rats away from me and try and make this wheat grow. That's all you were worried about.
Yeah.
Until the Industrial Revolution and everything like that, where we started having like really condensed city centers and like people are like, like we get like a more modern looking economy where you can have the ability to like I guess maybe in the Renaissance and stuff like that where people were like really like thinking about stuff or whatever. Yeah. It's most of humanity is just about surviving.
Yeah. When you think about it that way, we've always heard the statistics. Like some people are alive that existed before the airplane exists, and then within the span of 100 years, we've sent someone to space. And we've done this. Imagine being able to summarize a period of time by a decade instead of a century. You know, so if you look back in the 1500s, how long did it take for them to reach, you know, or build a castle or do something, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, even some projects in Italy were like the Pantheon, or how long did it take to build that thing?
Oh, I don't know.
Or like this
It
Roman
probably
architecture,
took-
right? So you're
No
summing
idea.
that up over the course of
Well,
40, 50,
pyramids
60,
were generations they took to build.
generations, right? And then we can break up the past 100 years into decades. That's kind of neat. Like distinct time periods.
Yeah.
You know, in
Well,
10 years, like the 20s, the 30s, and the like, they're all have unique.
I think if you look at like the course of human history, you see like it's super obvious. Like technological advancement, it's exponential growth, right?
Yeah.
And I think that goes a lot alongside of like how we decided to like break things up, because like even the difference between like the internet in 2005 versus the internet in 2015.
Cell phones, man.
Well, and I was actually going to bring up cell phones because when you think about like the advent of the smartphone was what, like around 2009-ish
The iPhone
or
came out in
something?
07.
Okay, so then they're kind of ubiquitous by like 2009, 10, 11. And like if somebody was to bust out a flip phone now, it would like seem ancient. It's like, it's only 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like it's not very old, you know?
Well, again, what blows my mind is, and this is just for gee whiz thing. I used to have a Motorola like
Razr.
smartphone. Well, like the Q is what it was called, and it had a little trackball. It was like a knockoff BlackBerry, but it had GPS, and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
And that was before the iPhone. And I could send, it was like a little mini computer, and I could send pictures with it. So that was just pre-2007, like 2006-ish. And I switched to Sprint. It was a big mistake because the service was garbage at the time.
Sprint's part of T-Mobile now.
I know it is. I know. We're on their network as we speak, which is really funny to me. But
I just need to do a really quick thing. I make fun of Thelmany for being on T-Mobile because that's like it's the drug dealer cell phone network or whatever. Because like it used to be one of those like burner pay as you go type of things until it grew into a real network.
yes.
And that's what every time he calls it was like, oh hey, you paid up on your drug dealer phone. Good job.
Well, the only thing is like AT&T was secretly raising my rates, and then customer service was absolutely. I had a very frustrating experience, so I just cut them loose and I switched to T-Mobile because I used to have Cell One, which then belonged to AT&T.
I had Cell One.
But yeah,
and I
remember
haven't
way
I
back
had
in the
Cell
day,
One as
Cell
well.
One.
I
Yeah.
haven't thought about that since 2005.
Yep.
Yeah, that was
Right?
So this is a tangent. I'll get back to what I was talking about. There was a company that was in competition for Cell One called Cellular 2000.
Yep.
I want to
Okay.
say, and I had Cell 2000, and my parents, everybody had it, and the service on them was garbage. Everybody wanted Cell One, and I remember I been in the military since 2004 now, and so my coworkers had deployed to Hawaii, and I remember somebody bragging about the fact that with Cell One they had service in an elevator in Hawaii. And they're like, the door's closed, and my phone call didn't disconnect. Like that was the deal. And so I heard that. I kind of convinced my mom, like, we have to switch to Cell One. We can get cell service in an elevator. Yes, we've got to do this.
And now you guys are live streaming
off
on
of a cell
YouTube off of a
phone.
cell phone. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. And so, so the Motorola Q would send picture text messages. The Razr sent picture text messages. When the iPhone first came out, could not send picture text messages.
Do you remember?
Could not.
You
I
could
did
only
not know
hold
that.
like 20 texts at a time on the Razr.
Oh
You had
my
to delete them.
goodness, yeah.
So that's what's funny, right? You could text a picture. It was the size of a postage stamp, but you could still text one. But when the iPhone came out, you couldn't send a picture. And then a lot of people forget about there was no app store.
Yeah, because it was straight SMS. You could not do MMS at all with the iPhone.
And it was just the native apps that came on the phone. And that felt amazing.
Yeah.
Like pulling up the weather, and then you got the calendar, and it looked so good.
And there was the promise of like someday people will develop some apps that'll do whatever you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now we have so many apps that it's
Oh
like,
my goodness.
Like we have, what is it? There's like the Billionaire App where it literally just cost $1 million and it did nothing.
Oh.
And somebody bought it.
There
Wow.
was the phone, because the guy hated cell phones. He made the Send Me to Heaven app. So it used the accelerometer in the phone. So you'd throw it up, and then it would measure how long the hang time was, and when it came back down. So it would get kids to throw their phone in the air to see who could throw it higher, and then eventually
And then they
people
would all
miss it,
break.
and then it smashes on the ground.
That's brilliant.
And so that was like that. It violated app. They figured it out, and it violated their terms of service, because you can't make an app that encourages somebody directly to destroy their phone. What people come up with. Like I would have never thought in a million years to like make that. But what makes me mad is last week we tried to order some pizza from Little Caesars or whatever. I had to download an app to like complete the checkout, and then because of unemployment and everything, they were closed because they didn't have enough employees. I hate I don't want an app for every fast food. We tried.
Yeah.
That's why you use DoorDash. I'm just kidding.
right. We sometimes will catch McDonald's and there's a huge line on the way down. So I was like, oh, I'll get the app. I can order ahead. They don't let you order ahead until your GPS signal, your phone is in their parking lot because they don't want you ordering and then not coming to get it.
What?
So they make you be there, and it's like, well, then
What's
I might
the
as well
point?
send the drive-through. It's so frustrating. It's
Well,
just
yeah, we did that one time,
Yeah,
and then
we
we
did
ended
it,
up
and I-
waiting
I'm
like
coming down
20
here, yeah.
minutes in the parking lot. Finally, Jeremy went in, and he was like, I ordered food. Like,
Yeah.
I'm watching 25 cars pull out of the drive-thru. I deleted the app off my phone, reinstalled it just so I could delete it again. Like, that's how mad I mean, like, you're gonna have to be deleted twice. So I hate that. Apps are just getting absolutely crazy.
Yeah. I create usernames in as few places as possible.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know, I'm can't
Yeah.
think of an example off the top of
Right,
my head,
but
but
no.
whenever I try to order like Qdoba,
Right.
you know, I could have saved so much time by creating a username and a password with the amount of times I've ordered Qdoba
Right.
since the pandemic started.
Sign up as
I
guest.
refuse to.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't need another freaking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even just ordering pickup at a restaurant down the road, ordering pickup. It was like, set up an account or check out as guest, but you still have to put your name, your phone number, and your email. And
Yeah, the only thing you don't do is make a password at that point.
I'm
Yeah,
paying
right. I know.
cash when we pick it up. Like, or I'll pay now.
I was gonna say I didn't pay. They just gave me the pizza, so I
paid.
hope you paid.
I paid, but I'm just saying, like, it was like there's no reason you need any other information other than just like maybe a first name to
Like literally, like when you make the phone call, they don't
Yeah.
care.
No.
They're just like,
Yeah.
my name's Mike, and I'll show up in 20 minutes, maybe.
right.
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 much.
And that's the way the world worked for so long. It's like you could make a phone call, somebody would make something, and just pray that somebody came to get it.
Do you
Yep.
guys remember Mitch Hedberg, the comedian?
Oh, I love it.
Do you remember his donut bit where he's just like,
Yeah,
I
receipt.
don't need a receipt for a donut. I hand you the money, you give me the donut. Could you
This is-
imagine his reaction to this world? Which like, you want a pizza? What's your social security number?
Seriously.
It's like kind of ridiculous.
So just because you brought him up, my favorite. So it's like if a duck walked into a store and grabbed a loaf of bread, I'd let him go. And then the dog is forever in the push-up position. And he's like, sometimes I'm laying in bed and I think of a good idea, and my notebook's across the room. So then I lay in bed trying to convince myself I'm not that funny. I miss him so much. His
He's
jokes.
great.
I wonder if a vacuum salesman has the same problem as a guitar salesman. Like someone comes in and goes, "Hey man, let me try that Hoover." You know,
Or God, an escalator can never be broken. It can
Yeah.
only turn into stairs.
Yeah.
And that's the whole joke. It's
Yeah.
a 2-sentence joke. And he just moves on. It's great.
That's awesome.
there was a commercial for water your hard to reach plants. Now, why would you make your plants hard to reach? Like, you know, it's so funny. He is.
you make them hard to reach so your cats can't eat them.
funny. Yeah.
Stop bringing logic into the conversation, Karen.
Yeah, who wants that?
There may be a cat in my house that eats my plants, and I just want to strangle him.
Plants are unnecessary in a household.
I love his donut. Anyway, so I bought a donut, and the guy tried to give me a receipt. It's like, no, man, this is a one-way transaction.
That's it. That's the exact line.
Yeah, he's
Oh
like-
my God.
He's like, I'm not gonna give you back your donut or whatever.
I
he
mean,
said.
can you imagine going back to a store with a half-eaten donut? I'd like to return this, please.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It's great. It's absolutely
I
priceless.
still have 2 of his CDs, by the way.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Don't get rid of them.
No,
Those are-
never. They're perfect.
It's
Swanky says cats are unnecessary for a household too. Get a dog. They have a dog.
We
And
have a dog, a golden retriever, and he's amazing, and I
No,
love him.
he's a begging fool and a rambunctious tornado.
I don't like cats, Swanky, so I agree with you there.
Cats belong in the wild. Toby does not belong in the wild. He belongs exactly where he is.
his begging. Oliver's the dog. Is
It's
getting
gotten worse
ridiculous.
since Chip
Yeah,
came
he's
when I
getting-
came home.
Jeremy is enabling it. I was over
He
there
is.
yesterday, and like the dog's begging, and Jeremy's just like feeding him loaves of bread.
And who was yelling at Jeremy?
So so first off, it was reheated French dips, so the bread was extremely crunchy, like too crunchy for me. And
It's
so
like
dogs
toast.
are really cute when they crunch stuff, and it like makes a. And so that's what he was doing with his long dog schnoz. And he's just. It was adorable. So I'm like, just be cute, and here you go. Feed you tons of bread.
Well, that's
And
why
then
he's
he-
begging.
Yeah.
Right? And then he begs, and then Jeremy's like, "Ugh, the begging's out of control."
Well, I want him to be there to eat food when
So you either die the hero or live long enough to become the villain.
know.
Oh, and we're back at the Dark Knight.
Yes.
Perfect.
that reference that joke was super awesome. And when I did the you've made it joke, I was going to sneak in a Star Wars reference and say, of course I know him. He's me. Which was super funny. So while I picked up your books, Keith, we had you come down on the podcast today. So do you want to talk about these for a little bit? Just fill us in about like inspiration or how they're, just talk about it or what it was like to make a book.
What was it like? Man,
this is your first book ever? Or am I completely out of left field?
The Horror Anthology Handbook is my first book ever. And the much smaller Red Betty and the Murder Farm is my second book ever. So the first one is nonfiction. The new one is fiction. Books are hard to write, but they're not impossible to write. I think anyone can be a writer. So
every writer ever says that.
Well, can we talk about anybody can be a writer. Can we talk about the DuluCon thing?
Yeah. Perfect. Let's talk about the DuluCon thing.
So at DuluCon, I would like to hold a panel where everybody gets to write a short story on the same topic. This is a thing that's been done at writing conventions for a while, and people have had a lot of success for it. So you get everybody together in a group and you say, all right, so we're going to have 40 minutes. I'm not sure how long the panels are this year, DuluCon, but let's say we have 40 minutes and everybody's going to write on the same topic. And this topic is, what if zombies invaded DuluCon this year? So we're all here, we're all in the same place, we're all writing about this place, and we're all writing about the same topic in this place. So let's see what collectively we can do. And whatever people write in that time period, I will collect and then transcribe in print and put out there as a free ebook. So another non-for-profit thing.
Oh, and, that's cool.
The whole philosophy behind it is that, like, regardless of your ability level or confidence level with this kind of thing, anybody can be a writer. Because it's not like what we're doing here, right? Like with video and film production, it's like that requires cameras and training and expensive technology and all this different stuff. Like
good internet connection.
All you need to be a writer is a place to write, right? So you can go to the library and do it for free.
J.K. Rowling.
Is that where she wrote at the library?
Napkins at a cafe.
Coffee shop.
That's insane. So like all you need is just the confidence and time to do it. So that's what we're going to try to do at DuluCon. And I kind of feel that way about these books. I mean, they're hard. They're a ton of work, but like if you're up for something difficult and putting a ton of work into it, you can write a book too. They're not impossible.
What? Keith did
the cover's in there.
Promo for it.
Oh, Brownie has this picture too.
Oh my gosh.
I had it up the whole time you were talking.
Oh, no way. I didn't look at the picture.
Yeah.
Attack of the DuluCon Zombies. So we're going to see if we can make this happen this year.
Awesome.
Yeah. So you guys can all write books.
What's this one?
That's one that I'd like to write. That's why I wrote coming soon-ish.
So
you should coming soon ?
You might have noticed this, but that has been my thing. It's not that old for me, but I just add ish to so much I say now.
Oh yeah.
Because I am habitually late and having a kid makes it way more difficult to be on time. So now it's just I just add ish onto stuff it's like, oh, what time you can be down there? 4-ish.
Right.
What do you want to work on today? 1 or 2 things-ish.
Just like in Toy Story 2, Ham, he's like, at precisely 8:35-ish.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else remembers that moment, but it's like one of my favorite moments.
I love it. Toy Story is so good. It's such a classic film.
And we're back to trilogies.
Yeah, I know. We're back to trilogy.
You know what unfinished trilogy everyone's waiting for the third part to?
What?
The Bible.
Chris, you have a button for that, don't you?
Do I? It's one of these. Let's go. This one. Who knows what the sound I just made?
But they can hear us. We can't. It's so funny. Yep.
I think that was a sad trombone. It could have been people clapping. Let me know in the chat.
I kind of hope it was sad trombone.
I have not memorized these.
As soon as it tips to almost to the top of the hour here, why don't you people take some questions? If you have any questions for Keith, type them in and ask them now.
Anything you want to know about this guy?
We'll write them in.
Probably nothing.
The 2 books, the 2 movies, and you've already said it, but we'll be able to share if you're interested. Will your website have a link to the movies?
Oh yes, I haven't updated my website in a little while.
What's the one-stop shopping somebody can remember from you to see all the stuff you work on?
HexagonMotionPictures.com, but I really need to get on that and put new stuff on there because I haven't really updated it in like 6 months. And I've been busy, so there's nothing on there that's new. But that's a good motivator. So I'm like, now I got to go on
because then you can put a link to your book.
Yep.
And like where to buy it. You can have a link to the Gravedigger Daves 2 when it comes out. Yep. It'll be streaming on Vimeo, most likely, but could be YouTube.
Probably video.
But that way, people, if they want to get an update on, hey, I saw Keith a while ago. I wonder what he's working on,
Yeah.
That's where they can go.
I'm findable. HexagonMotionPictures.com.
But
Brad wants to know why Matt Rasmussen hasn't been on to build the Ecto 1.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Well, so I've talked, Keith, you're not super crazy, but Legos, there's the Batmobile came out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've got all the helmets, and they have a Batman cowl.
Oh, nice.
They just came out with it, and it's Batman, and it looks incredible.
That's
looks
awesome.
really, really cool. So every time I see Batman stuff, I think of you now. And then whenever I see Ghostbusters stuff, I think of Matt.
That's
and so
perfect.
they made the Ecto Cooler, and so I had messaged Matt. I was like, Matt, we'll get it. You come down, we'll build it together, you and me. We'll have a day together. And he goes, I already got one. He already had one. But he said he would love to come down and build it again.
That's awesome. I feel like we're headed towards a Ghostbusters renaissance.
Oh,
where it's
yeah.
like there's going to be so much Ghostbuster stuff out there. So it's going to be awesome for everybody, especially Matt Rasmussen, but also everybody else.
Yeah.
No, there's so much things that just come out that I can't believe separates me and my money. But it Star Wars is cool, and there's stuff I can turn away. But there's the helmets. Like I said, when I saw I'm like, look at these cool helmets, these Star Wars Lego helmets. I'm like, a full set of them is going to cost like $150.
I mean, they're super cool looking.
I was like, I'll buy one. But then I bought another one, and then I bought another one. So then it's like, before I know it, I have the full set. So Matt, he can experience that with Ghostbuster stuff. Like, take his money.
They do.
But they just have to have, anything to do with Ecto Cooler as well. Just...
I wonder. My question is how much would it cost to buy the formula for it so you can just make it yourself?
Oh man,
Well,
probably infinity dollars. They're not selling that.
Well, but if they're not going to sell it, why do they not produce it? Is the question.
I think they are going to produce it again.
You tie it into Afterlife.
Yeah, I mean, I'd bet whatever little money I could on something like that they will.
What we should do? We should do a mock of an Ecto Cooler juice box.
Oh,
that would be really cool.
Right?
Sells Matt Rasmussen for $80.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, it had to be pretty big if you want to get all the detail in it and everything. But
that would be
cool.
You could probably do a
awesome.
1-to-1 scale and fake it decently well enough.
Yeah,
I
I
think.
betcha.
It makes me wonder why Lego isn't doing that. That's a perfect idea
Yeah,
for a
that's
kid.
That's probably a licensing nightmare.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they've crossed the bridge with the car.
Yeah.
Ecto Cooler car.
Yeah, but the license holder for the card isn't the same license holder for the drink.
Yeah.
What? Oh, High C.
Yeah.
Right. And who owns High C?
Coke, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So
I'm surprised Lego doesn't have a contract with Coke.
that'd be cool. Build a Coke bottle. That'd be
Yeah,
sweet.
that would
Right?
be cool.
Or
Get on it,
during
Lego.
Christmas time, the polar bears with a Coke bottle.
Oh,
My
yeah.
sister used to get those Coca-Cola polar bears every year for Christmas.
Oh, the stuffed animals? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's got a whole bunch of them.
That's super cool. Any questions coming in? Anything?
Nope, nobody wants to know anything
Chat
about
has been
Keith.
so
Cricket.
quiet
More
today.
people are asking about Matt Rasmussen than Keith.
Well, that's why Matt Rasmussen stars in movies and I don't. Nobody cares about the director of the movie. They care
Yeah.
about the star. So
Like, Ivan Reitman, get out of here. We want Dan Aykroyd.
exactly.
Not to hurt anybody's feelings, but Chris, you were talking about a very specific group of people who were weirder. I just kind of I associate people who this is not ever going to come out right, but when people list off directors as more importantly, be like, oh, have you seen the new who did Grand Budapest Hotel?
Oh,
Wes Anderson?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was
Yes.
Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
I was excited for Isle of Dogs, and somebody said, oh, that's the new Wes Anderson movie. And I was like, no, it's the new Isle of Dogs movie. I don't, I know the director's important.
So here,
So weirdos are into directors, is what you're saying.
no, so
it's not my wheelhouse, right?
it boils down to whether or not you think that movies should be classified as auteur or as independent of the creator. So
That's fun.
This is all film theory stuff that I took in college. So it's you could say that this is the new work of this person. If so, for example, when I say a Quentin Tarantino movie, you know exactly what kind of movie it's going to be.
Yeah.
When I say a Michael Bay movie, and you say a Wes Anderson movie, you know what they're going to be, right? So that's why people will say that, because you're shortcutting and you're associating their body of work as important to understanding what the movie is going to be like.
Yeah.
Man, this is quite the thesis, Brown. You got to write this all down.
This is pre-established. I'm just regurgitating stuff I paid money to learn. But then on the other hand, when you're saying it's like, it's the new Isle of Dogs movie. That's when the basically the other side of this coin is the audience ownership of a work. Right. So, and Star Wars is a classic example of this, actually. When people are complaining about what the next Star Wars movie should be, or George Lucas fiddling with his work or whatever, do you believe that the director is more important and should be able to execute his vision to the point that he thinks it's complete to, or do you think that once it's released, it belongs to the audience and the audience can turn it into whatever they want to?
I mean, honestly,
option B.
So a lot of people fall into that option B category where, like, once it exists, it shouldn't be touched, and then it just becomes a work to be parsed by and reinterpreted by and memed by the people who enjoy it.
Yeah.
Where there are people like, so when you look at it like in a book format or something, like, does an author ever go back and rewrite a chapter of a book without telling anybody? I mean,
yes.
there are editions.
No, you can. So I'm self-published, right? But I self-published through Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I was actually just reading about this today. On Amazon, you can go and change your book. You can upload a new version of your book. And the question was, do the reviews go away? And no, they do not. Right? So, like, somebody could potentially, like, have a bunch of, like, positive reviews on this, like, heartwarming novel, and then go in there and upload a new version of the book and, just have F-bombs and whatever, any horrible thing they wanted to, and the reviews would stay. So people would be like, I love this novel. It's great for your kids. But then somebody new goes to buy it, and it's not the same novel that those users reviewed. So they're allowing, like, re-authorship on a much, like, greater level than what Star Wars did, because like with the special editions, everyone knew, like, it was advertised like this is a different movie.
Yeah. Well, and this is a little bit more emergent in terms of, like, the way that things are delivered too. Like, it used to be like Star Wars, you had to either go watch it in the theaters or buy the copy of it, like a physical, unchangeable copy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Unless you recorded over it with, like, Sesame Street episodes or something.
Right.
This is another story. But with digital distribution and everything, and the ability to go back in and, like, without basically any effort to be able to make alterations like that, that's interesting.
Well, and the intention is that you just had a light bulb.
No, I'm off topic. It's tangent.
Okay, should I keep on going?
Keep going and come back.
All right, we'll come back. So the intention is, it's like if you, like, catch a typo or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure if, like, Amazon's algorithm, or maybe there are, like, actual people who are going in and checking the books, if you did something, like, ridiculous, like what I was talking about, they'd probably catch it and, like, flag you and get you kicked off. So I think the intention is for, like, typos to fix that. But I think the question of, like, authorship, like what you're talking about, like, does it belong to the audience once it's out there, or should you be able to continue tinkering with it and call it the same thing?
We've actually got some comments, which are kind of interesting. So first, Swanky says Michael Bay equal explosion.
Michael Bay explosion!
Brad says, I feel like once you know how things work behind the scenes, it changes how you see things. Does Keith watch movies like he did as a kid, or is it more like paying attention to camera angles and editing? So that's a question for you.
I have to watch a movie a few times usually before I start thinking about it as a filmmaker. And I was actually just watching Toy Story 2 today. And I've seen that movie so many times that, like, I can just watch it and only think about, like, the cuts and the angles and the script. But generally speaking, when I'm watching something for the first time, I'm only kind of watching it as a viewer, which is great because I don't want to be, like, sitting there, like, doing homework when I watch something. Mm-hmm. So it's good, like, to get immersed in something. But then if I'm like, all right, well, that was really interesting, let me pick it apart, watch it a bunch more times, and then really try to figure out, like, what maybe could I try and, like, rip off from this or learn from this, or,
It's kind of fun. I watched Toy Story 1 last night when I was going to bed. But I'm kind of like the opposite. Unless a movie, like, so the grade of a movie to me is how much immersion I have. I go into stuff and, like, just because of all of the theory training that I went through in college, like, and, like, the dissection of stuff, because I did theoretical analysis of, like, 50 movies throughout the course of my college career. So it was just, like, constantly, like, picking stuff apart. If I can be immersed in something and not be thinking about it analytically, that's when I'm like, oh crap, this is an awesome movie. Otherwise, it's like, I'll be like, oh, they jumped the line. Oh, this guy's setting up whatever. Oh, that's the exposition. It's like, okay, this character's going to come back and do whatever. It's like all these things where it's like, because you've seen so much and done so much analysis, for me, that unfortunately just automatically has taken the primacy of my viewership, which is kind of unfortunate.
That's actually never happened for me. In the horror anthology handbook, I like dissected like 100 horror anthology movies, or maybe it wasn't 100, but it's a lot. Certainly over 70. And so I would actually have to sit there with like a notebook and pen while I watch something to make sure that I was taking notes. Because if I just watch it and say like, all right, well, I'm going to pick out the parts later that I'd like to write about, it would just wouldn't happen. Because I don't have that like analytical part on automatically. It's like I have to turn it on by writing while watching.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the same for like most people. It's just like that's just like the weird way that it hit me when I was doing it.
But you are also like uniquely brilliant. So.
I appreciate that. That may or may not be the case. So more comments. Swanky says works belong to the person wanting to tell a story on their own terms. So that's kind of the auteur side of it.
Yep.
Clone Watch on YouTube. I think this is the first time they commented. Oh, they commented twice. Dang. Sorry, it's taking us a minute to get to your comments.
Hello.
I'm more in the middle. The creator should be able to change stuff, but as long as the original version or each new version is still available, that's interesting. Like, something like, and that's the thing that kind of like George Lucas made people mad. It's like, this is the new version. The old versions don't exist anymore. Yeah. Essentially.
Yeah. What did the previous commenter say again?
Belongs to the person wanting to tell a story on their own terms.
So in that case, you'd be like George Lucas always owns the right to tell Star Wars the way he sees fit.
I'm still thinking about it.
Let it kick around for a second. I got a couple more comments to get to. Clone Watch goes on to say, like, Disney Plus should have the Lucas cut of the original trilogy, but also the theatrical cut.
They should.
Yeah.
So that's the part of it that makes me frustrated is I want to be able to have access to the pre-change because that means something to me too. Or you could it's just nice to compare and contrast. But while more comments are coming in, my eureka moment from a little bit ago was we started talking about directors and stuff like that. So it's like, I do love like Kevin Smith movies or, like A Clockwork Orange. I don't even know who directs it, but I know that person
Stanley
is
Kubrick.
Stanley Kubrick. Like he's got, who did 2001 A Space Odyssey?
Stanley Kubrick.
So, okay. So like that's, those are, but anyways, so what I was getting at was, what I was thinking about is everybody's asking about Matt. I was going to say that based off that information, I'd probably be on the other side of the screen asking about Matt too. Because when I go to movies, we were talking about like Sean Bean earlier, the actors have a huge imprint on me. And it was like, but they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the original idea that they're expressing outwardly, which is kind of fun. And that's why I used to love sequels, but now it's like we would never have some of my favorite things if in a way we were like broke out of the mold and made new content.
Yes,
so it's like,
we're breaking into something that we'll just put a pot. Are you going to talk about that?
I don't know. I had an idea, but I don't know if it's the same.
Well, you say something and then I'll stop you if I think it's a topic we're going to jump into for a second because I have one more thing I want to say, but you go ahead and start.
Well, I mean, I've been listening to a lot of filmmaking podcasts that say that actors do not sell movies the way they used to. Like it used to be like, oh, let's go to the new Tom Cruise movie.
Interesting.
Now it's more about the intellectual property. So if it's Marvel or Star Wars.
Yeah, so that does lead in. So like we're getting into we've entered a world where there's no, like, so people have talked for a long time about how there's like no middle class, right? There's like, you're either like lower class, poor, or ultra wealthy, right? Like the middle class has vanished.
Sure.
The middle class of films has kind of vanished, like that $30 million budget, like thing. So it's like you either have like these ultra low budget films that maybe people don't know to look for.
This is fun.
That sort of like fill in the gaps of like the new IPs. And then you have these massive tentpole things where they're going to make 50 movies out of it because they know they'll make money. But like you miss out on things like we wouldn't like, it'd be really hard to make The Terminator right now.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, but I think that stuff like that exists. It's just not. They don't exist as these like big Hollywood movies anymore. They're on TV. They're on Netflix and Amazon.
That's true. TV is filling a big gap there.
Yeah. Right. So it's like stuff like that's still being made, and also independently. You have those like middle budget, sci-fi action horror movies that are still being made, but they're not being made by Warner Brothers and Columbia Pictures.
Yeah.
They're being made by like these other companies that are maybe a little harder to find because of the like overwhelming amount of content out there.
Yeah.
I really like the thought process going down the road of how, you used to go to see a movie for the actor and now you go see it for the IP because it was like Solo or any of the Star Wars movies. I went to it because it was Solo, not because of any main lead. But then look at Marvel right now. Everything hot on Disney Plus is either Star Wars or Marvel. You've got Captain and the Winter Soldier and you've got WandaVision and it's all Marvel intellectual property.
Bad Batch.
Bad Batch from Star Wars and... So that's kind of an interesting...
Well, thank you for the subs, Sajad. If I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize. Said, hi, bro, subscribed and liked. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then as a tangent, this is just a funny story, because I've like got a billion of them. You're talking about changing things and whatever, right? So the guy who made Ethereum is now the world's youngest so the crypto is the world's youngest billionaire at 26 or 27 years old. And he, in high school, was playing World of Warcraft, and they changed a spell on him. It used to drain life and do damage, and they got rid of the, or would like heal and do damage. It was like a drain life move. They changed it. And that got him so mad he quit WoW, and then he went and then learned about Bitcoin. And then he would wrote a blog about Bitcoin, and then people would invite him to work on crypto projects, and he made his own Ethereum. So it's like literally the fact that somebody Blizzard changed his WoW, inspired him to go off and do this crazy thing. So it's just a funny story about changing stuff. But I had seen a statistic that hit me really hard. This was even 10, 15 years ago, and it was like in the 50s and then even into the 80s. Out of the 10 blockbusters, 7 or 8 of them would be new intellectual properties, and 1 or 2 of them would be a sequel. And then in like 2010, 9 out of 10 are literally sequels or part of the same IP, and 1 is like a new intellectual property. But it's like Star Wars at one point was new. Yeah. Batman at one point was new. Like we wouldn't have these cool things if nobody like breaks out of the norm.
Yeah. So I got a couple of comments to get to. So, Sajad says, I'm going to tell my friends to sub. Thanks, dude. That's awesome.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
We really interact. Like we're an interactive podcast. So it's like you do comment. We'll talk about it.
Brad says, don't make me love something, then you take it back and change it. So again, there really is a divide between people that think that the author is the person who is in charge of everything forever and it can make as many changes as they want, whatever. And then there's the people that are like, once it's out, it should not be touched anymore.
Well, I think
it's really hard I see the validity of both sides. And I think it's harder if you're a creator, you want to be able to have the control over your thing. Like if something if you can make a change that would make it better in your mind, it's like, I should be able to change it, right? It's my thing. But at the same time, in the spirit of like creative works and everything, it's like, it's not really a thing until an audience sees it. Like my college professors were always like, you can shoot as many movies as you want, but they're not done until they screen.
Sure.
Right. And it's like, and as soon as they screen, that's when it's not yours anymore. It belongs to the audience. And then however they respond to it and like whatever, moving on from there, it now is out in the public. The toothpaste is out of the tube.
Yeah. I think there's an interesting divide though between something like, sorry, bump the mic, like a movie or a book where the expectation is like, all right, well, once it's out, it's finished, versus an online game where it's like they're constantly iterating and reiterating.
Yeah, constantly. Patches, level balancing.
DLC.
Well, what you guys just made me think of is what makes me angry is when I see a sequel to a game I love. The game can change and add new, but I hate it when they remove old mechanics.
I have a perfect example of this.
And it just makes me so mad because there's things that people watch Star Wars and they like Chewbacca, or they might like R2-D2 and C-3PO, but you don't like take those out of the next movie. So it's like when people do it to a video game, there might be a mechanic one person enjoys, and a different mechanic somebody else enjoys, but then the developers decide not to go there, so this game fires up. I've got many games that it's like, hey, where's this thing I used to love about the first one, and it's gone.
So between Borderlands 1 and Borderlands 2, your class mods, every class mod used to have a version that would give you ammo regeneration. Right? And then they made ammo regeneration the sole responsibility of the Gunzerker. Oh. And I hated that because you're constantly going to the stupid vending machine to buy bullets.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it takes me out of the game. It's like, it's been 3 minutes, got to go to the stupid ammo machine or whatever. So like, that's exactly one of those things. It's like, it was a core mechanic of the way that these things worked, and then they took it away, and it was really frustrating.
It drives me nuts.
I love the game, but...
This makes me think of like, what if you could approach a book the way you might approach like an online game or like a YouTube video? So like, the book exists and you can see what your analytics are, like a YouTube video. Like you can see like, oh, people are watching here, and then engagement just dropped off. So you have a book and that happens. You're like, man, page 30, people just drop off. Let me rewrite page 30.
You just wrote an episode of Black Mirror.
Oh yeah.
Here's where I'm thinking.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Somebody's reading a book, right? They're studying the analytics. So it's like, what point do a majority of the people shut the book, put it down, and walk away before they come back and finish it, right?
Yeah, so how long in between when they close and reopen it?
Or if they even come back and finish it.
You're always rewriting the book. You're always reiterating
it. And then you just get this book that once somebody picks it up, it's like a drug. They can't put it down or whatever.
Just like World of Warcraft.
That's what I'm saying, man. That is like if you could do
Copyright
that.
Rise of the Podcast 2021.
Yeah, right? That is an episode of Black Mirror. It's goosebumps.
I don't want this to be an episode of Black Mirror. I just want it to be a way to edit a book.
Well, so one of the big distinguishing things, and this is something it's a completely different fight than like the auteur versus audience thing. But when it comes to video games, it's like, at what point does the input of the player supersede the intent of the game? Right. So, because like you can set up a game for people to play or whatever, and they'll do stuff. But like, if somebody breaks the game or whatever, like obviously they want to patch it. But like when people make like a Minecraft machinima or something, right? They're not using the game to play the game anymore. They're using it to create like this other artistic thing,
right?
Or whatever. So then like there's all these things like so Minecraft in particular is totally cool with it. It's in their terms of service. You can monetize it or whatever. But like, you're using an IP to create something else now. It's like, is this like a remix thing? How does this work? Whatever.
Yeah.
So like with video games, kind of touching on that, but like there is a player input that makes the individual experience way different than just like watching a movie because you have to control what's happening.
This is blowing my mind how fun this is. It's thought provoking. I love this stuff. We're addicted to Mythic Quest, and it's a TV show.
Excellent show.
Came out, and it's
my god!
I've not heard what's it on.
It's on Apple
TV.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't have that.
The main character is Rob McKinney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, cool.
It's a fantastic show.
It is so freaking good.
Episode, and this is like a breakout, and it is ridiculously in line with what we're talking about. And so it shows these game developers and these woman and this man, they fall in love over video game development, and she wants to make her own game. She wants to produce her own game. And he'd been producing games, they're just garbage. So they team up, and she wants to make a game that you have like a flashlight, and you're constantly skirting death, and the only thing that's like protecting you is like this flashlight, but you never win. Like you get far enough, and you just survive as long as you can until you die. And it became a huge success.
Quiet Death was that
Quiet
the name?
Death is what it was called. So we're talking about Star Wars and the creator creating something, or once it's created and it belongs to the people. So the problem was they made the sequel, but then the play testers and everybody was saying all of these people who are consuming this game, they want these things in here. They want the ability to win. They want the ability to be able to use a gun and destroy the monsters, but that got away from her vision.
So it's no longer dark. You had to be, it had to be light enough that you could see the monsters to kill them.
She kept giving up a piece and a piece and a piece to the people who are consuming it, right? And then it became not her game anymore because how much of it had changed. So like they get a divorce because the husband was like, well, we got to listen to what the people want.
Well, they end up making a movie out of it with...
Yeah, and it just goes off the rails. So it's like...
This sounds awesome. I want to watch that.
It's a fantastic show. That's one episode that's like its own thing. But it just made me realize it's like, George Lucas made Star Wars. But if we let the people run it, I mean, is that what you get? 7, 8, and 9? Is that what happens? Like you let the fans run it?
Yeah, because like everyone accused the sequel trilogy of being fan service.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of chat to get to.
I
here.
bet. Sorry, that was just like a.
Well,
cool
no, it's like we're getting into something that I actually have a big depth of knowledge on. Like
Chris is like
Star Wars is like I know surface level whatever, but like this is the inch wide mile deep here for me. So Swanky says, is it wrong if someone decides to make change? Oh, he said, sorry. Let me make sure that I say this exactly correctly. So it's wrong if someone decides to make changes to their stories, but it's all right if other people that love it get the rights and dun change it themselves. I think this is the Disney hit.
That's a good question, yeah.
Morcusser Hyder. Oh my god, I'm bad at pronouncing things. Sub through Shizad. I was active. I will keep on following you. Dude, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I wish you the best. That's we
Thank
really
you.
do appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Brad says, I think both are wrong. I wish Disney didn't get the movie and short rights. Yeah, so the thing is, like, no matter which side you take on the auteur versus audience debate, there's no right side.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and that's the thing. It's it's like a lot of things. There's like sort of like a gray area in the middle. You just sort of have to be happy with, but nobody will ever be able to have complete control, and nobody will ever be able to have the final say that this is done and the audience owns it now.
I like making crazy connections. So there was what I was thinking of in my brain is we've got edgy intellectual property or like this quiet dark game, right? And how it's very unique to this
Dark
person.
Quiet
Dark
Death.
Quiet. Dark Quiet Death was the name of the game. And then how it
the thing Harris said at the very beginning.
It reminds me of another statistic that I'd heard where if you ask an individual person to guess the amount of jelly beans in a jar, no one's usually ever even close. But if you get like 100 or 1,000 or the more people you bring in, if you average out all of their guesses, it's almost always either spot on or within a jelly bean or two. So collectively, people are more intelligent than the average person collectively. But if you take that and apply it to artistic things like movies and art and video games, do we end up collectively grinding it down to being a simple...
Well...
you get where I'm going?
Yeah, no, I do understand what you're saying. This is sort of related to that. Once you said, like, if you take all the average guesses, it gets pretty close to the right thing.
Yeah.
The reason why giant choirs sound amazing is you can have people that are sharp and flat and everything. The sounds end up averaging out to sounding like the note it's supposed to be. So potentially, if you have a bunch of people working on something together, like, so I'll say this before I finish answering that question. Whenever you see a movie that says written by blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, 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 and blah, 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 it's probably not good.
Except with Pixar.
Yeah.
Because those movies are written by committee and they're great.
And so you know the difference between the word and the ampersand, right?
No.
So if you use the word and, it means we worked together.
Oh.
If it's the ampersand, it means that, so it'll be like written by Keith Hopkins and Chris Brown. Ampersand Jeremy Manthey, ampersand Kara Manthey means they did subsequent versions of it.
Right.
Interesting.
So,
I actually didn't know that.
I did not.
But so like, you probably end up getting something that's not as impactful or more homogenized the more people you have working on it.
Right.
But I think there's a right balance between, like, obviously, like, somebody could be innovative. You could be George R.R. Martin and just lock yourself in a room and write Song of Fire and Ice. And you have complete creative control over it, and it's exactly the vision that you have, but it might be something that's, like, completely inaccessible to some readers. If he had 2 or 3 people that he was, like, working with in concert with, it's like, well, let's make this a little bit more simple or this or that. They have that input, but it's maybe not as strong on its own legs now that would make it a force that people that do like it, like, really, really like it.
Right.
So you kind of, like, sacrifice the extremes to get to more of a middle. And I think that's kind of what happens, like, when people are like, oh, this generic whatever... like when you talk about like a generic like TV sitcom, it's like they're just aiming for the lowest common denominator. That's kind of what you're doing. It's like you're cutting off the extremes and aiming for a wide audience so that it's appealing to more people, but not as intense. People like Seinfeld. There's some people that do love Seinfeld, but people like Seinfeld. A lot of people just like it, right? But there are people that absolutely freaking love Breaking Bad, and there are people that won't touch it.
Right.
Right? And because, like, and that's the difference between, like, a pointier stick or a broader paddle type of thing.
Yeah.
I have a ton of chat to catch up on. Lucas regrets it, especially since he pretty much gave them the next trilogy story and they throw it out and do their own thing. Brad says, didn't need the money. It was a very poor decision based on greed. Swanky. They're having this whole back and forth. No, he's getting old and wanted to spend time with his daughter. Didn't want to miss out on her life dealing with another almost decade of directing. He was looking for someone to finish the story. Brad comes back. Could have just passed the torch at Lucasfilms while giving distribution and merchandising rights to Disney. Brad says, I don't have a problem with retiring. Mrs. Negas, hi, subbed. Thank you for the sub.
Wow, thank you.
Cool.
I'm so bad at pronouncing names. I apologize profusely. Swanky, Disney owns Lucasfilms. He fully retired. Oh, man, this is okay.
These guys are getting into it.
I feel like it's still being civil, but Brad, I understand. I think you could have sold them for much less money and everybody wins. Even if you sold just Star Wars distribution rights, you still would have sold Lucasfilm. I agree. I don't like Disney handling with a lot of, but someone else would be running Lucasfilms doing the same thing. Well, and that's the problem when you take
Is that the end of the?
That's caught up on all the chat now.
Okay, good. Okay.
So and there is a problem when it's like I would say George Lucas considers himself the auteur authority on Star Wars, right? And so what he granted, like, regardless of how you feel about how he was checked or not checked during the prequel trilogy, that's still George Lucas's vision, and they still feel like Star Wars movies for the most part. And then you get to the sequels, and like once that authority was handed off and they did more of a committee base, even though they had like an idea of what he wanted to do, regardless of how close they stuck to it or didn't, once it came away from that tour authority that he had, and that was the only thing that was consistent across the first 6 films, was that these are George Lucas movies, even though like they were the who was the person who directed this?
Lawrence Kasdan.
Kasdan was the screenwriter.
Right.
Why can't I even think of his name? Irvin Kirschner directed Empire.
Yeah.
Still written by Lucas Kirschner, all that. And then, I always forget who directed Jedi. But even though he wasn't necessarily being the direct conduit from writing to directing, he was still there making sure that people were following his vision. He was completely removed, like he had him out on his advisory role and didn't listen to him basically at all for the sequel ones. And then there's a wider net of people that were there producing it. So it gets a little bit more watered down. People are concerned about the fan reaction stuff. If people weren't concerned about fan reaction and just stuck to the core tenets of what the Star Wars story was supposed to be, if they let George have more authority, I think it would have turned out better because it still would feel like a George Lucas production. Once it's like, we have to make sure that these are in here so people don't feel mad about it, you're going to alienate the people that don't like fan service, and now you're automatically creating a divide.
Yeah. So that's kind of what that was reminded me of the Mythic Quest thing and the Quiet Dark Death thing, is if you were to just listen to every input you have on something, you're going to try to appease so many people that you're boiling away the edginess or the unique thing that makes it so.
Richard Marquand directed Jedi.
Got it. So here's what I think is kind of interesting about Star Wars, and it's easy to go back in hindsight's 2020. But the problem is, whoever had creative control ultimately at Disney over the prequel trilogy, you needed a the sequel trilogy. You needed a George Lucas-ish type person to direct it, and it's too bad at the time they couldn't have just given it to Dave Filoni. Because he does his project so well in George Lucas's style that he would have been a good handoff to run Lucasfilm and then do the
the
distribution rights.
Do you think that he was regarded as like, oh, you're the animation guy?
I feel like they sort of treat the animation stuff as lesser.
And Jon Favreau, I think he could have been pulled in too, because he's done.
I didn't know that Favreau had any interest in Star Wars at all until Mandalorian.
Well, and I wonder if someone with the clout of Favreau was the one to be able to be like, hey, Dave Filoni is he's our man.
Yeah,
you know,
then that might have been the way that it goes down, or had it gone down.
Who knows? Yeah,
but yeah, that's what they basically needed, was they needed somebody to at least stick to the style without worrying, like just make something in this. And then you're talking about like derivatives and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That's almost where like Solo was carved out to me, because that was that could have been like a derivative of Star Wars. Yeah, but not. I don't know what I'm saying, but it's. You've got Star Wars, the original, the trilogy, right?
Yep.
And they lost creative direction with 7, 8, and 9 because they tried to appease too many people.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So if they would have handed that over, that would have been great. But you can also still make projects that don't have to be under the guise of like Dave Filoni or Lucasfilm if it would have went that direction, with things like Solo and had it be a derivative work that tells a story. Right. That's not going to affect the main trilogy as a whole and make so many people angry.
The funny thing about The Mandalorian is I think there was so much less pressure on it because, there was not really going to be any direct revenue from it. You've got subscriber revenue and you've got merchandising, but like there was going to be no ticket sales. So I think there was a lot less pressure on them to be like, well, what are people saying about this?
The proof is in the pudding about that one, because they didn't even make any Baby Yoda Grogu merch. Right, like that came out of left field because people didn't know. It's almost like they just undervalued what they created.
Well, it's kind of funny. Like let's make these porgs and make $1 billion merchandising decisions based on these creatures we're going to put in the movie for that reason, and then make Baby Yoda by accident.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Well, then I think like when you're talking about once you're so broadly established that you can just you can take risks on something and not worry about whether or not it's successful or not. Mm-hmm. Like that's the luxury of what Disney has created at this point, because they've acquired so many things. Like Disney, both the Marvel and Lucasfilm acquisitions have paid for themselves immediately, basically.
And I think you see that in WandaVision too. It's like, let's just try something balls to the wall weird. Because we don't have to fill a theater,
Yeah, that's true. And it's good creative stuff.
Yeah, and when you let people try and do something different, like people obviously responded to it.
Right, yeah.
So, there's it just makes me think now, like there's only one, you can be in two positions to take risks. You can either be in our position where it doesn't matter. We don't have anything established whatsoever. Like, so we can just do whatever we want and we're not accountable to anybody.
Yep.
Or once you have so much that you can just be like, we got to balance the book somehow. So it's like, we'll try that. And if it fails, we'll just count that against our whatever for taxes, you know? Yep. So we do have another comment from the Clone Watch. Filoni is not an executive. He's a creative. He's an artist at his core. He has no experience running huge film companies. As much as I think he should be in charge of Star Wars creatively, he should not be running Lucasfilm. I know a lot of people don't like Kathleen Kennedy. She's been around for 1 billion years.
Yeah, she's been around.
She was a producer on the original Indiana Jones films. She's been around Steven Spielberg and George Lucas since the 80s. So she's not like some new person that just swept in.
Right. No,
this is somebody that George Lucas trusted to run the company from a company running standpoint. Like, she'd been a producer. She producers get stuff done. Creatives do the stuff. Yeah. Right.
I've kind of started putting it. Directors get to make movies. Producers get movies made.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I think like, just because something creatively doesn't come out the way you want doesn't mean that the person who's running the company made that mistake. Right. They're there to put people in a position to be able to succeed. Like, fundamentally, that's what their job is, right? And so then, like, you should be more worried about the people that are on the boots on the ground doing the things, turning into whatever, right? So it's like, I think that J.J. Abrams deserves the blame for, like, getting into the whole sequel trilogy thing. One person should have been in charge of executing that trilogy.
Was that a managerial decision, though?
J.J. Abrams didn't want to do a trilogy. He wanted to do one movie. Oh, and they wanted J.J. Abrams so bad, they said fine. And then they're like, oh, crap, this blew up in our face. Let's get him back to finish it off or whatever. And, like, you can think whatever you want. I'm not personally a huge fan of J.J. Abrams. I think that he's good at the tease, but not good at the resolve. Yeah. If we had to,
don't even get me started on that.
If we're applying our tour labels, so it's like, if James Cameron is X or Y, J.J. Abrams is the tease master.
Well, you know the meme with the guy, and he's like smoking, and he's got this hand, and he's all frantic, and he's in front of the board with all the pins and the strings. There's like a meme about it. He's
that's from Always Sunny.
Right. It is right.
So a conspiracy theory.
That's like how I got done as a Star Wars fan with Episode 7. I'm like, where is all of this going to lead to? And then it just resolved into garbage.
Yeah. So because there wasn't a unified vision moving forward, as much as you believe or don't believe that George Lucas actually wrote all 3 movies at the same time for the original Star Wars films, he had a continuous vision of where it was going to go. And that's why they feel like they're connected. And the same thing, even though they're very different than the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy had a continuity of where it was going, and it was executed by one guy, right? And then it's just like, we're just going to throw money and people at this, and hopefully people will buy tickets.
And they honestly, I don't think Last Jedi, I think inside the community of people who do podcasts like this about Star Wars, Last Jedi is regarded as this like kind of like oddball. I don't think outside of that community it is. I think it's a successful, like really big hit movie because of the money that it drew, but then also because of the money that the sequel drew. I think like a sequel's success is very much a reflection of the previous movie, right? So the third one did gangbusters, and the second one did gangbusters. I mean, I think outside of people who are in podcasts and watching podcasts like this, like that's a really successful, really good movie. So I mean, I agree with everything. I agree with like the fan community in terms of like where the story went.
Right.
I don't think that the franchise was in need of like a ridiculous amount of overcorrection from a general audience standpoint.
No, I agree.
I have a personal observation I've noticed, and we have to wrap up, unfortunately, very soon.
Yeah.
But I still meet people who've never seen Star Wars for the first time.
Yeah,
so
same.
Caitlin's boyfriend just got her to watch the original Star Wars movie. Good on him for getting her to watch A New Hope. He got her to watch New Hope. But what I found is I asked people if they like Marvel movies. So Derek, my coworker, he had never seen Star Wars, and I got him to watch Star Wars. I didn't watch it with him, but I got him to watch it. And so I was like, hey, do you like Marvel? And if they like the new Marvel movies, they like 7, 8, and 9 a lot. So it fits in with the special effects and the teasing and the reveals and like all of the big bang flashy things. But I like Star Wars. I like A New Hope is a great. It's like Back to the Future.
Star Wars is a perfect movie.
It can be alone or it can be a part of the thing. But I find, and so I already know that when she gets to 7, 8, 9, I bet you she's going to like them because she said she loves the Marvel movies. And so it's just, I put them on the same thing, you know, as on the same level as that. But
I think from the point of view of the fan community, 7, 8, and 9 were movies that had to appeal to fans. Mm-hmm. I don't think outside of fan culture that is a thing that is true. Like, I don't think financially that's a true statement. I think Star Wars 7, 8, 9 had to draw in new audience.
Yeah, it always.
Because, I mean, really, like, if the only people that went to see 7, 8, 9 were diehard Star Wars fans and those people love them, they would not be mega billion-dollar financial successes.
Yeah.
They probably would have lost money on
the
them.
fans couldn't have propped it up, but you need to bring in new people. And there's a lot of new people who were introduced to Star Wars. The same thing with Mandalorian. Think of how many people I've heard, they still never watch Star Wars stuff, but they watch Mando and love it. And so now they're going to check out more Star Wars stuff. And I saw a thing, Kara dresses up as Ahsoka. Somebody's like, oh, I loved Ahsoka and the Mandalorian. They'd never seen Ahsoka before that. And it's like, so it's fun because they always, different things are bringing different people in. And that's what gets them into the trilogy, which is really fun. I have to apologize, Keith, that the last 20, 25 minutes to 35 minutes is all about Star Wars.
I love this stuff.
But a sprinkle of filmmaking and fun ideas.
Yeah,
and then you were talking about producing and directing and creative and running a company. Mythic Quest is all of that. I don't know why I'm plugging Mythic Quest so hard, but it's really fun.
It's so good. The new season just came out.
You've got the creative programmer is a girl from Australia.
Poppy
She's
Lee.
absolutely awesome. Then you've got Rob from Always Sunny
Ian.
is the creative vision. So he just like spits stuff out and people listen to him and create it. And then you have David, who's the producer and get things done. And you get to see how they each contribute to making this video game, and you get to see all these roles in action, and it spreads so much light on how those roles work in a creative process. I love the show.
Nice.
Really, really fun. Unfortunately, it's on Apple, but they just keep giving me free Apple. They really do. They're like, oh yeah, we'll just accept
Apple Plus or whatever.
Apple Plus, yeah. So it's kind of funny. But any other closing statements before we wrap up for?
A little bit more discourse about Kathleen Kennedy that we probably don't need to get into. Swanky, it's whatever.
Yeah.
Swanky says I love Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, she was great.
So yeah, like I feel like even though we did like go on sort of a tangent about like the production of Star Wars and stuff, I think like a film director / producer / writer / everything guy, you know, it's like he's eminently qualified.
I think we stayed pretty much on topic from my point.
Yeah, that,
You know, it's like
absolutely.
I think that we did pretty solidly well. So hexagonmotionpictures.com, check that out. Gravedigger Dave's Halfway House, Gravedigger Dave's Anthology Festival. Gravedigger Dave presents Red Betty and the Murder Farm and the Horror Anthology Handbook.
Free.
Keith
That's
is
too much stuff. I need to stop.
such a prolific producer. Check out all those things. HexagonMotionPictures.com. Again,
You
check
can
it out.
watch the first Gravedigger Daves on Amazon Prime right now.
Yep.
You can get the book Red Betty and the Murder Farm on Amazon on your Kindle. For
Which is
free
number 2
right
in
now.
horror right now,
It
right?
was.
Oh,
It
right.
sank to what, 9, and then now it's at 15 last I checked.
Well,
but hey,
let's get it back
15's
up
pretty good.
to number 1, guys.
Yeah.
That's right.
Check
Go
out all of
it
his
out.
stuff. We really appreciate having Keith on here. Man, if you guys have made it this far into the podcast, congratulations. You've made it to the end of the podcast. Go ahead and give it a like if you want to see more content like this in the future. Comment down below with how you feel about basically anything we talked about. We got into some deep, chewy material today, and I would love to continue talking about it down in the comments with you guys. Subscribe if you're not already. Ring the notification bell to be notified every time we upload a new video or go live. I think it's pretty fun talking to us live. We have a good time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and of course,
May the force be with you.